This is for my colleagues who are teaching college English and using contract grading. And also trying to fit that into Canvas, which is the system where students check their grades. So, the problem that my colleagues and I have faced is that every quarter, there's just a few students that complain that their grades at the end don't match the grade that Canvas had suggested they were getting. So they thought, oh, Canvas showed I was getting a 90% because they didn't complete one of the contract grade elements. So the contract grade is in your syllabus, you share it during the quarter, you say students have to meet certain requirements, but Canvas is just tracking what they've done so far. So at the end, when they earn that 75% on their contract grade, they come to you and say, but I thought I was getting a 90%, which is what Canvas said. So for those few students who ignore the contract, I decided to change my grading in Canvas so that it would always reflect their current grade. So, and I grade for practice. So many of us grade for like a complete, incomplete in contract grading. And I don't do a complete if you've met mastery, which you totally could do. I do a complete for did you do the practice? So that's how I'm doing it. And if you want to learn the hows and the whys of ungrading and contract grading, there's another slideshow here with links that can tell you more about it. All right, so first of all, contract categories. I took what were the contract categories that you needed to do for a 4.0, a 3.0, and so on, and I moved those into separate assignment categories in Canvas. So students can still choose the contract they want to work on. They can still say how much they want to do. So looking at the traditional contract grade here, I could show in my syllabus for a 3.0, which is an 85%, you agree that you'll complete this. I just had this 82% or more on process work. So that would be a category, 82% or more on peer work, track and reflect, and then 100% on your final revised essays. So you can't see the 3.5 and 4.0, but whatever contract they want to work towards, they agree they would do this. And so I just put those into Canvas categories. So, and I broke it down, you know, we're always changing what goes in the contract grade. I just have 3 right now. So participation in a college course for 10%. Everything else you do for 75%, all the drafting, all the peer response, all the final essays go into practice assignments. So my contract grade right now would show these are the 3 things you need to do. And it could say, you know, if you get an 88% in your participation and in your practice assignments, and if you get a 75% in your revise and reflect, that would be a certain contract. So just to make it so students don't have to think and do that work, I put their grades into these 3 categories. So every time they do an assignment, they get feedback, what is their grade? So let's look at this student has 96% in participation, 88% in practice assignments. So the contract might be, you know, you need to get like, again, for a 3.0, 82% or higher in those 2. And then revise and reflect, you'd only need like also an 88%. So right now they have an 81% because they haven't done enough in the revise and reflect category. Okay. So just moving whatever your contract grade categories are into Canvas categories. And then it's you are telling them you can decide how much do you want to do. And they always have feedback on what their grade is when they're making that choice. Okay, so the other thing that I did, which is you don't have to do and is not related to that, is I switched from using complete incomplete to if you complete it, you get 100%. If you do more than half, you get 75%. Sorry. And so on. Because some students felt discouraged that if they got an incomplete, it was counting for no credit. And sometimes they had done maybe 75% of the work. So I have just switched myself to a complete is 100%. So, but you can still use the complete incomplete. Okay, so what I'm doing in my Canvas categories now is anything that that last category, revise and reflect, that's what moves students from a 3.0 contract up higher. And so I am putting a 0 in that for my students so that they won't be surprised by their grade later. They will always know, here's exactly what I'm earning. And then they can choose. Do you want to do one of those items that will bump your grade up into the 3.5 category? The risk of this is that maybe students during the quarter say, gosh, my grade seems so low, until they can have the opportunity to do that first assignment that would bump them up. So the other thing you can do is you can wait until the assignment is due to grade it. So not put a 0 in advance. And just then they'll be looking like they're getting 100% until that first 3.5 to 4.0 category option is open for them to do the revision for, in my case. The benefit of this is students will have those higher grades, which can maybe encourage them to stay in the class. The risk, of course, is that when they do, you do assign, okay, here's the 4.0 category. Then when they don't do it, you give them a 0, and then it accurately shows their grade of, oh, I'm only getting an 85% because I chose not to do that. So whatever it feels more comfortable for you and clear to explain to students. Okay, so before I do that, I want to just show you again my two systems for this. So here, for example, if you want to put a 0 in that category in the beginning, you have to preload it with whatever assignments they need to do to get that 3.5 to 4.0 grade contract. So I've moved, in this quarter, I call them final projects. So again, if you wanted to revise something, that would be final project 1. And so before the quarter starts, I had put a 0 into all 3 of those final projects. Then let's say week 4, they revised something, then that that 0 would become for that student, you know, like a 100% there. And then that would bump up their final project's 15% grade. And then they could say, oh, I want to do more. So then when we go to revise the next essay, which is optional, but for students who want to do that, they do their next final project. So these zeros just help students see, if I choose not to do that work, my grade is going to be like an 85%. And it looks like that top student participation in the college course, aha. So you can see, even though they're getting like a 97% in participating in the class, their overall grade would, the max it could be total would be 85% until they earn some of these. And I asked my students, would you rather that I put in the zeros, or would you rather that I leave it blank? And then after that revision assignment comes and goes and you don't do it, then I put in a 0. And they wanted me to do it this way. And you can probably ask each quarter, do you want me to do it or not? And that helps them understand the system. But for me, this way, it's super clear for them. And the last thing I wanted to share is I'm still very much using the anti-racist grading system. So even though I'm giving them 100%, I just wanted to briefly share my objective checklist as much as possible. I try to make it an objective checklist. So instead of requirements for a complete, now I call it requirements for a 100%. You can call it for a complete 100%, whatever. So does it have at least 725 words? Yes or no? Does it have, I'm going to skip down to this one. Does it have a thesis that states your main idea in response to one or more of the class sources we read and watched? Yes or no? So I'm not evaluating the quality of their thesis. I just want them to have one, and I want them to respond. They can even choose where in the paper they put it. So for the most part, this is just a yes, no checklist of things they have done. So that's it. I just wanted to share. This is one way, if you're struggling with getting students to understand what the grade in Canvas is versus how they're doing on the contract. So thanks for watching, and I will stop the recording.